I am the program coordinator for Next Generation Scholars at Wicomico High School in Wicomico County, Maryland. Today's a really neat day. I have the opportunity to not only speak to an amazing coach, but one of my best buddies. We have Coach Brendan Riley, who is the Parkside High School football coach. And it's a strange thing because I work out of Wicomico County High School and I coach football out of Parkside High School, which is separated only by about 2 miles. And it's a huge rivalry. So there's a lot of back and forth in regards to who's the better football team. Parkside is. Anyway, but once again, I have the pleasure of having with me today Coach Brendan Riley, and we're going to talk today a little bit about the differences between Division I, Division II, and Division III college athletics. So to start off, I just want to hand it over to Coach Riley and tell us a little bit about yourself, Coach.
Thanks, Coach Tashe. Name's Brendan Riley. I'm originally from College Park, Maryland. Grew up in Prince George's County. Went to a small parochial school called St. Vincent Pallotti. I was a 3-sport athlete by the time my senior year had hit, and I did football, wrestling, and baseball. I was recruited as a 2-sport athlete, baseball and football primarily. The whole function of recruiting concept and how it is, how kids can get recruited, what goes into it, essentially what it was that Coach Tashe asked me to talk about today. So there's a lot of variables, obviously, that go into what we're looking at. We're not just going to talk about, football per se, even though it's kind of in the wheelhouse of what it is that we do. The number one thing that is got to be said is that for every single student athlete that has the aspirations to be a college athlete, they've got to be a great student. And I know that is a focal point within the discussion of the Maryland Business Roundtable as far as getting students to understand just how vital it is that they are doing what they need to do. And especially in these trying times where they're doing things at home and trying to figure out how is it that this is going to work. And I know that there's going to be some things that are moving forward as far as what the NCAA, they just put something out this past week about eligibility statuses for current 2020 kids. So there's a lot of information that's getting thrown around. What I'm trying to help kind of present is essentially the idea that, students need to come in, and parents obviously need to have, guardians need to have the understanding of what it is that they've got to do coming in as a 9th grader. They get their courses, they get their ideas as far as what it is that they've got as a course load, and then really looking at the core classes that a student athlete is going to be needing in order to be that student that has an opportunity to garner opportunities at a higher level institution, whether that's Division III, Division II, Division I, or the NAIA. And in those, obviously some circumstances, they go the junior college route. So there's a variety of different ways. The biggest thing that has to be understood is that students need to know that if they believe in themselves, number one, to be a college athlete, that's what it takes. At the end of the day, it's going to be their active role, the parents, guardians, and the people that love them, their coaches, obviously putting information out there about them. But really, it comes down to whether or not the student athlete has got the desire to put in the work ethic and really do the necessary steps in order to put them in a position to garner those opportunities.
Absolutely. And B, I know one of the things, and these are things that, you and I have experience with, right? So you played Division III college athletics at the University of Salisbury. You played 2 sports, actually. You played football and baseball. And I played Division I and Division II in college football. So, and not only did we have the opportunity to experience that ourselves, but one of the neat things that we've also have been a part of, seeing students who we've coached and who have been recruited by each of these Division I, Division II, and Division III colleges or universities, and even junior colleges, NAIA. So we've seen it. We've seen it, even if we haven't necessarily been in it, because you or I didn't go to a junior college or NAIA college, but we have coached kids who have done that. So the biggest difference, right? So talking to somebody who might be a novice to this, right? They're like, what's the difference between Division I, Division II, Division III athletics? Coach, what are the differences? What are the biggest, like, 2-3 differences between that kind of student athlete?
Well, the number one difference is size, and I'm not just talking about student athlete size. I'm talking about populational size. You take the University of Maryland, for instance, and they got 45,000 students, versus say Salisbury University, that's somewhere around, I think, 10 to 12 right now. You're dealing with a major level of discrepancy. Right? And then within even the Division I sports, you have a tier system that kind of exists. You know, you've got Division I teams that are FBS, and those are really big schools: Tennessee, Alabama, Florida, Miami, all the big schools that you see kind of as far as when tournament action is going to occur. And then you get some of those smaller kind of Division I schools, the Siennas, the Marist, you know, the Creighton, I think, is out there. So smaller kind of institutions, Towson University, obviously, Delaware, still about 25,000 amount of students that are on campus at any given time. You know, you get down to the Division III. Salisbury is one of the bigger Division III schools that exist. I mean, they almost want to be considering like a Division II school. You know, some Division II schools have anywhere from 5 to like 8. You know, it just depends upon the region. It also depends upon whether or not they're a private or public institution. So there's a lot of things that go into it. Same thing with the NIAs. NIAs are a lot of times very competent to, say, a Division III or some of the higher end Division II schools. So again, population wise, just depending upon the region, what their resources are. So there's a variety of things that go into it. When you start looking at how it is and where it is that a student athlete has the capability, I mean, there's a lot of tangible things that they need to take into consideration.
Absolutely.
You know, parental involvement. And I'm not saying from the parental aspect of saying, oh, yes, I need to be contacting the coaches. You do. It doesn't need to be incessant. It doesn't need to be a thing where they're like, oh, they're calling me again. But, you know, getting the kids information and having the student athlete actually writing letters and communicating officially, say, Coach, I'm really interested in your program. This is my letter that goes out to you. You know, I know that you offer these kinds of programs at school. These are things that I'm interested in. And hopefully this is going to be something that is the essence for that catalyst that kind of pushes them towards them being recognized as a student athlete that actually cares about the university and not just, hey, I want to be recruited. At the end of the day, you know, these college coaches are getting bombarded by hundreds of thousands of people. And really, they have a very small window of individuals that they're looking at. When you're talking Division I, you know, there are some cases and some programs that are looking at kids from the time that they step in as a freshman. And if that kid is talented enough in order to make a freshman onto a varsity squad, then they are going to pay a little more attention to that. And, you know, depending upon obviously what clientele or where it is that they're going to play. You know, baseball is huge in the travel part. And right now, obviously, all of that's been shut down. But you're seeing how one of the things that it all comes back to is what is it that the student is doing while they're in class, you know, and what kind of student are they as they're walking around the building? Are they a person of high character? Do the teachers enjoy them? Is it something that they're doing community service? Those kind of things are tangible things that a lot of colleges are looking at, because when you're bringing a student athlete onto your campus, that college coach has got to know that that person is going to be a person of character, or that college coach could end up not having a job.
Absolutely.
It happens, and we see this carousel of events that occur. You know, there's really a lot of scrutiny that goes into it. They look into all those things. You know,
and Coach Riley, would you say that you know what college, you know, regardless of Division I, Division II, Division III, that those things that these college coaches and recruiters are looking for, those things are pretty consistent. They are looking for the good athlete. They're
absolutely.
looking for the good student. They're looking for the good character person out in the community. Would you say that that stays pretty consistent regardless of Division I through III?
I would firmly agree with you on that. I think that ultimately they have got to put someone in their program that they feel very strongly about as far as their work ethic and the character and those things. Because again, it's an extension. Whether your community, like say Parkside High School, where we talk Ram Fam and we build this idea of culture. That has got to continue as it goes through, so that these kids ultimately are in a situation to emulate that as they go into other places, because they're taking a piece of themselves obviously into this new environment. You want to have that as kind of the essence, but without a doubt, playing and hard work and Nona put up there, the desire and hard work is such a vital part, because those are the intangible things that when the coach leaves them with a workout program and says, hey, you're accountable at 6 a.m. in order to go work out. You better show up at 6 a.m. in order to work out. No, they're not. There's so many people that want to be doing it. There's those individuals who say it, and then there's those individuals who actually walk the walk and do.
Absolutely. That's very well stated. So we touched on what these college recruiters are looking for in regards to a student athlete at Division 1, 2, and 3 level. So I think we're in consensus that those things are going to be pretty consistent. Now, another thing, and obviously this is a huge thing to where like some young student athletes might not think about, but this is beside the size of the school is a huge thing, and you mentioned that earlier. The second thing, huge thing is the quality of the athlete, right?
Definitely.
So when you look at it now, and this is a little tricky, right, Coach? Because a lot of people think that if you're a Division 1 athlete, then you're the best athletes, and if you are a Division 3 athlete, then you fall somewhere down here, and you're not quite the athlete that. And I think you and I have seen it, we've experienced it. There is amazing talent at each level. Division 1, 2, and 3, every day. I was watching something, The Last Dance, the other day, and a lot of people don't know that Scottie Pippen, one of the best, basketball players of all time, who played right next to Michael Jordan, went to an NAIA college.
Right.
You see that in football. You see that in Bryce Harper went straight from high school to junior college, and then went from junior college to pro. So to think that you can't succeed at a smaller school or starting off smaller and then going bigger, that is totally, from what we've experienced, that's an inaccurate thought.
Absolutely. I've seen guys, when I was playing at the Division 3 level, whether it was baseball, I only played for my first year. The next year I had an injury, so I really didn't finish out my career with that, kind of focused on football. But I saw guys, whether it was football, whether it was lacrosse, whether it was baseball, they had walk-on opportunities, got tryouts. I remember my senior year, I got a tryout down in Dallas to go to a combine, and my body was done at that point. I was 23, and I was like, I don't think this is the way I want to go. I want to get into another route. I was finishing teaching. So I can't agree with you enough. The idea of going into a place where a kid is wanted is number one. And then what you do once you're there is so vital. And that's what we try to preach. I know you and I both and all of our guys, we try to preach that concept because, again, at the end of the day, it's about a student athlete feeling comfortable in the college setting because for so many of them, they have a thought process of like, oh, I've got to do this in order to keep up with him. Like, no. This is about you. And this is what's best for you, what's best for your family, what's best from an economic standpoint.
Absolutely.
There's so many different variables that have to be openly dialogued as you're going through it. But as you said before, when you're looking, Division 1, I've seen girl field hockey players, who were 5'6", but man, they could run like the wind and they were tough and tenacious. And I've seen Division 3, All-Americans who probably could have been a Division 1 field hockey player, but wanted to win a championship, decide to go, to another university as a result of that. There's countless situations in which what's really vital is that kids and parents really got to feel good about where it is that they're going to be at. They got to feel good about the people that they're around, meaning in the environment in and of itself. I think it's so vital because it really truly is the difference between students getting in, because, you know, the big thing, and you and I, we've talked about this before, is once they're there, what do they do? You know, are they going to continue to be what it is that you were preparing them for as a coach or as a teacher and as a mentor? You know, how is it that they are going to take what they take and what they've learned and then apply it and then learn new things, be coachable? So I think that all that stuff really buys into it as well. You know, you know, I'm looking at a list right here in front, and we'll share the site later. But if anybody wants the breakdown, you know, of varsity sports and how many scholarships and who it is that gets kind of what, depending upon the levels, you know, we have a website that I'll share to Coach Tashe, and he'll be able to put up there. You know, it says men's varsity sports, but obviously we're talking female as well. Title IX is a real thing. So money that's allocated towards male sports is allocated towards female, and the scholarship opportunity that exists within it. You know, the other kind of nuance that's within this is also, what does the team that you're looking at need? You know, and I use this analogy: if I've got 10 offensive linemen, you know, and 5 of them are sophomores and 5 of them are juniors, and then I got 10 of them that are freshmen. Well, I don't need to recruit in next year another 5 offensive linemen. I better find some running backs, or I better find some quarterbacks, or I better find some receivers. So you get into that as well within this. You know, what's the need? And when you're frank and open, you know, luckily I've been doing this for 13 years as a head football coach. And when I first started, I was not very smart about it. You know, it's just kind of like, hey, there's some kids that have an opportunity. They have good grades. You know, coach, will you take a look at them? But really getting the relationship built between myself and the other coaches that student athletes have had the opportunity to go and play for is a vital part of it. You know, without, you got to be able to know, hey, this guy is this, and he needs a D lineman, or he needs a linebacker, or this guy needs a running back, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, and you know what, Coach, we're about to wrap up here. But I think, you know, one thing, and I'm going to let Coach Riley kind of finish up, but I think as a former player and as a current coach, Coach Riley the same way, one of the neatest things about getting any kind of financial assistance, right, regardless of Division I, Division II, Division III, if you have that opportunity to go on and further your career in whatever sport of your choice, and somebody's going to help you pay for college, that is huge. So don't think of it as in, I'm going to go a level down or anything like that. Think of it and use it as an opportunity, because you're there for an education. End of the day, and I wish I would have known that when I first started college, because I went in there thinking I was a football player and that's what I was going to do. And even though I did have some success, it was not a long-term career. And so I had to go back to school and get my degree. I didn't take advantage of it, and I wasn't thinking it along those terms. I didn't take advantage of, you know, someone is going to pay for me or help pay for my college. And regardless, like I said, if you're going Division I, Division II, Division III, if you're getting financial assistance from that university, whether that be a scholarship or need-based grant, that should always be a top priority. That should always be a top consideration. They are going to help you pay for your college to play a sport that you've been playing since you were a child. So regardless of the level, it's an amazing opportunity. Coach Riley, once again, dude, thank you so much for being with me today. I'm going to let you sign off. Anything that you want to say to the Maryland Business Realm, next generation scholars and scholarship athletes, potential scholarship athletes, just any kind of words of wisdom to sign off with.
All I'll say to anybody that's listening in the Maryland, I want to just thank you for obviously inviting me to come and speak with you today. You know, you're one of my best friends, and without it, I appreciate it. But at the end of the time, you know, with any of the student athletes, you know, again, it's about desire. It's about doing the right thing. And when you make a mistake, it's about trying to do the next right thing. I think those are the keys towards, you know, trying to pushing yourself and really having a tremendous belief in yourself to accomplish those. And again, as a former Division III athlete, don't have a Division III athlete mentality. Like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. We wanted to compete. We wanted to win a national championship. That was what our thought process was. And I think that's what the thought process is of a true champion. And I think champions come from within. So really, at the end of the day, it's about how you go about doing what you do, as far as your character, your desire, how hard you're going to work.
Absolutely. Hey, Coach Riley, and right before you get off, we have a question from a former college football player who I know well, and we really dig him around Maryland's Business Temple Roundtable of Education. His name is Mr. Paul Smith, and he wanted to ask a question. He said, and you're going to be great in answering this because you deal with this every day. Mr. Smith asked, what advice would you give to a younger student athlete, freshman, sophomore, who want to get on the school's radar but don't know the landscape?
So that's a great question, Paul. And I think that number one, it's about reaching out to the universities that are going to be, within the interest level. I think you need to have a real conversation about talent level at that point, because I think, you don't want to set a kid up for failure. I listen, I'm 5'10" and 5 foot wide. I was waiting for Notre Dame to call me when I was a senior. They did not, and that's okay. But the ability to really reach out and just try and then kind of evaluate, but find camps. This summer is going to be weird. I'll be honest, Paul. The summer is going to be weird as far as a lot of the camps are going to be shut down. So really, it's going to depend upon, if and when we get back to doing what we do as far as the fall and, winter or spring seasons. And then really getting after it, because everything's going to matter as far as tape is concerned, as far as what you do on the field, what you do off the field, obviously being just as vital as far as that is concerned. But, as those things start coming back, I think for a freshman and sophomore, they get the opportunity to go and actually compete at some of these places, walk up, and it's a humbling experience. For a young man to go up to a college coach who he doesn't know and introduce himself, you have to talk to your student athletes about what is it that's going to feel like, what is that going to look like? What do you want to present to them? Because, that first impression is so vital. When you stick your hand out and you look someone in the eye, you shake their hand, you say, Coach, my name is so-and-so, and I'm from this high school, and this is my GPA, and these are the things that we do in order to get prepared. Do you have any recommendations for me as far as how I can get better as far as a student is concerned and as far as an athlete in this game? And what did you see from me today? Those kind of questions, that shows that a student has the integrity in order to kind of do those things. So that's what I recommend to my guys. And they go up and they come back with these cards, and I make them follow up with emails. I try and make them follow up and say, hey, you talk to this coach, send them an email, send them a tweet, send them a thank you, whatever it is. That way they know that it's done the right way. I think that those things are vital. And great question.
Absolutely. Hey, and once again, to the homie, thanks again for joining me, B. AKA B Love, AKA the Polar Bear.
That's our Wu-Tang names, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Clan names.
Be gangster as we can.
Yeah, we're family in the Wu-Tang. But hey, thanks again, Coach. Hey, and I'm sure you and I will be talking soon, buddy. Everybody else, thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to keep on practicing social distancing. And in the meantime, make sure you take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks. Thank you guys so much. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.